Hey guys, welcome to the SimRacingPaddock. I'm William Marsh, and this is my review of F1 2018 by Codemasters. A lot of promises have been made by Codies, including improved physics, graphics, and more features. The question is, has Codemasters held true to those promises, and is F1 2018 truly a great improvement over F1 2017? First, let's bring in an abridged review for the 10% of racers who will determine their purchase based off of a single feature. F1 2018 does not have VR support. It sucks, but it's not there this year. So you no VR, no buy guys can move along. Maybe next year. For the rest of you guys, let's proceed on with the review, and I think most racers can find something to enjoy in F1 2018. Before we dive in, I want to state that so far I've only tested the PS4 version of the game. I've tested it on both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro, so that is what this review will be based on. Also, since this is pre-release, I have not been able to test out the online functionality in the game just yet. In the near future, I will release a second part talking about the PC version, testing on high-end hardware, and testing out the online modes. But for now, let's get on to the review. To start off, let's take a brief primer on F1 2017. F1 2017 was a solid racing title and was a major improvement over some of the previous years. F1 2016 was a fairly lackluster title, missing some of the features and functionality, but F1 2017 greatly fleshed out the F1 experience. Classic cars were reintroduced into the series, the career mode was greatly expanded, and it was overall a decent racing title. However, a lot of glitches and a fairly sluggish driving model really hampered the experience in my opinion. The biggest thing that I'm pleased to report is that F1 2018 provides the tightest driving experience I've ever felt in a Codemasters F1 title. The cars feel snappier, livelier, and more precise. Don't get me wrong, it's still a Codemasters title, and it doesn't feel as precise as say Assetto Corsa, R-Factor 2, Automobilista, or iRacing. However, it is a solid improvement over F1 2017. One of the things that really sold the driving experience home for me was that I could get a better feel of what the cars are doing. The improvements to the force feedback combined with the improvements in the physics truly make for a great experience. Flying up Eau Rouge, feeling the car start to break free, and trying to get it settled is a great experience. Part of the reason I feel the cars feel a lot better now is because of the new tire and suspension physics. Codemasters has claimed that they have improved the physics for the cars by gathering real-world data. You get a far better feeling now of the limits of the tires and the mechanical grip of the cars. If you do cross that line, you can actually catch a slide, but that's not to say it's easy. You'll still need to stay on edge to stay in control of the car. Though it's still far from perfect. The main complaints I would have with the driving model is that, while there are solid improvements, it's still not to the level we have started seeing in most modern sim racing titles. We're not seeing tracks dynamically rubbering in, and we're not seeing tire flat spotting or advanced degradation. I have heard there are plans to introduce advanced degradation in the future, but it's a case of I'll believe it when I see it. Visually, F1 2018 is a solid title. Don't expect an insane jump in visual fidelity and quality, but expect something that is noticeable. The colors feel a little more natural, there's a bit more detail, especially at farther distances, and very importantly, it runs at a very stable frame rate. So far, I've tested F1 2018 on a PS4 as well as a PlayStation 4 Pro, and the game runs at a stable, solid 60 frames per second while driving, even during the rain. The only issue I have had is some stuttering during replays, which makes things somewhat frustrating. The only other nitpick I would have is that some of the tracks have added details, like extra trees that aren't there in real life. Apart from that, visually, F1 2018 is a solid step forward. Now, let's take a little bit of time to talk about the career mode in F1 2018. If you enjoyed last year's career mode enhancements, you will likely enjoy a lot of the new improvements in F1 2018. It seems like Codemasters is really trying to flesh out the experience of being an F1 driver. For example, the interviews between sessions and after races add quite a bit of depth to your career and will determine how you are perceived as a racer. The research and development tree has seen some massive improvements, giving you a myriad of options to be able to determine the path your team takes in improving your car. F1 2018 has the rivalry system. You have mini objectives every race weekend, and your goal is to beat your rivals. Your teammate is always your first rival, and as you progress through the career mode, you have the option to select your second rival. It's a pretty cool dynamic that can shape your virtual driver's career. For example, if you decide to choose a higher ranked driver, that will be noticed. If you decide to choose an easier driver, you might be perceived as a bit of a slacker. So choose your rival wisely. All in all, Career Mode is a great feature for anyone who wants to dive deep into the F1 experience. Although, if you're looking for less of a commitment, you can also check out the Season Mode. In that mode, you can run a one-off season, and there are a variety of different options available. You can race the standard 2018 season, or you could run a historic championship, or even modified variants that will race in just Asia, North America, Europe, or even just a street circuit season. It seems like the variety of championships in this mode should provide a solid variety and decent replay value. The event mode makes its return after being introduced in F1 2017. Events will be downloaded from Codemasters servers, and you'll be thrown into the middle of a scenario, and you can see how you stack up compared to other racers around the world. It's a surprising amount of fun, but my concern is I think this mode will succeed or fail based on how well Codemasters supports it. Codemasters has made a shockingly major improvement in F1 2018 over the previous year, and has made a very well-rounded title. There are quite a few quirks and flaws still in the title, but from my approximately 15 hours of driving so far, I'm quite pleased with what I'm seeing. One question many people will have is this still a SimCade title? And I will say that, in reality, it is. But it's getting even closer and closer to the serious simulation side of the spectrum. I'm not sure if it will ever get all the way to serious simulation, but at the very least, it's a solid, fairly authentic, and believable driving model in a fun game. And isn't having fun really what matters when it's all said and done? Before we get into my pros and cons, let's touch on a few footnotes. The halo is used in full effect in the 2018 Formula 1 cars, but there is an option to remove the center post of the halo in-game. The top of the halo will remain though. This could be a good compromise for people who are struggling to see past the center post. The AI in the game has seen some major improvements over 2017. The AI will be a lot more aggressive and will actively battle you and each other. At times though, the AI might actually be too aggressive now. Sometimes they also seem to lack situational awareness, which is a little bit of a pain. This is the first Codemasters title to provide manual ERS controls. You can set the ERS mode between one of 5 settings, or you could set it to automatically adjust. By default, you adjust the setting via the multifunctional display, but you can also map buttons on your wheel to change ERS or other car functions such as engine map and brake bias. F1 2018 finally fully supports the Fanatec CSL Elite PS4, and it feels great. Even though F1 2017 supported Fanatec's PS4 wheel, the force feedback and steering just felt off. This version of the game feels miles better with Fanatec's wheel and is far more responsive. Speaking of responsive, the input lag in F1 2018 is just about gone. In F1 2016, the input lag was quite bad. F1 2017 saw improvements to the input lag, but it was still somewhat noticeable. F1 2018 sees it even further reduced to the point where it's almost negligible. That is, in my opinion, part of why the cars feel even more responsive now. The damage model in the game is rather hit or miss. A good shunt will totally destroy your car in full mode or even simulation mode, but sometimes smaller impacts will fail to register. There have been a few moments when I should have damaged my front wing from a shunt and gotten away scot-free. Safety cars, as well as the virtual safety car, make their return to F1 2018. However, red flags are still a notable omission. All 12 classic cars from F1 2017 have returned to F1 2018, and 8 more have been added to the game, bringing the classic car count to 20. Most notably, we have classic cars from the 70s, such as the Lotus 72D, McLaren M23D, and Ferrari 312 T2. This really fleshes out the classic car roster, and it is great seeing some fan-favorite cars come to the game. Last, but definitely not least, the sounds in F1 2018 have seen some decent improvements. The sounds seem like they have more depth, particularly in the engine notes. The cars have different engine notes to correspond with the different teams and engines as well. The sounds may not be perfect one-to-one representations of the real-world cars, but at least they're pretty darn believable. Now that we've gotten these footnotes out of the way, let's get on to my pros and cons. As usual, let's start with the pros. Solid improvement in physics gives better feeling in cars. Force feedback is more intuitive and more informative. AI has seen significant improvements over last year. Graphics have seen decent improvements with stable frame rates while driving. Career mode expanded in positive ways. Ability to remove the center post in the halo. And now let's get on to the cons. No virtual reality support. Replays seem to suffer from a stuttering issue. Replays are also lacking in features, for example, saving replays, advanced fast forward and rewind, etc. Simulation not to as high of a dynamic standard as other titles. Damage model is hit or miss at times. Would like to see an aggression slider for the AI. No red flags. So the question is, do I recommend F1 2018? If you are a Formula 1 fan and are fine not having a bleeding edge racing simulation with the most advanced physics, then I think you'll really enjoy F1 2018. If you go in expecting a racing simulation at the caliber of rFactor 2, Automobilista, Assetto Corsa, or iRacing though, I think you will come away disappointed. This is still a Codemasters game, both for better and for worse. A few of the same quirks have been carried over for years, and this year is no different. This is far from a perfect racing title, but I think this is Codemasters' best F1 title to date, and I could easily recommend it to F1 fans. I hope you enjoyed my review on F1 2018. Are you planning on picking it up when it releases on August 24th? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you like this review, please consider hitting that like button and subscribe so you can help keep us on track. For the Sim Racing Paddock, I'm William Marsh, and you have a good one.